Welcome back to the Ink Sink. I am Annie.
I'm Kaylee.
This is the publishing podcast for the rest of us, where we cover books and news and writing and reading, and we are so excited to bring you today our favorite news.
That's right.
I love a good myth bust. Christmas is a huge time for books. Those of us on the bookish, cozy corners of the internet, you might have heard about the Icelandic tradition of the, quote, book flood. Had you heard of this?
I had not heard of this, but it's so charming.
It's one of those ones that, like, I feel like every Christmas there will be, like, a viral tweet that goes around, be like, this is the cutest thing I've ever seen. And it'll be like, Iceland people give each other books. Icelandic people give each other books and curl up and read them all day on Christmas and Christmas Eve. It's like a super cozy image. The Smithsonian Magazine dug deep on it and said, actually, there's a little bit of nuance here. Like many holiday traditions, it does vary from family to family. The Icelandic book industry does get a huge boost around Christmas, though, which, again, very good and charming. And Iceland does have a huge literary culture. But the internet kind of cozy meme, it's more of a, some families do it, some families don't. Some people don't really care.
As with anything.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It was interesting. They said that time of the year, like they do like a lot of their sales like in that 4-month window leading up to the holidays. And that can really make or break an author. So it was very interesting. I really appreciated like the history. Apparently, you know, starting after World War II with the export taxes that were levied. Paper was not one of them. So they were able to, they just wanted to have a nationalist like thing that they were trying to rally and get like jobs and keep their people, you know, fed and entertained. So
it's like it's part of their cultural identity, this literacy, which is very cool, especially because I don't know if this is like common knowledge, but people in Iceland, most of them do speak English, but the Icelandic language does also still exist. And a lot of these books are in that language. And it's kind of like keeping it alive, which is probably one of the most charming Christmas traditions. It's very sweet.
It is. I agree. So these were the first 3 articles were a really good choice, Annie.
I'm glad. I wanted to start us off with happies. Let's move on to book bans. Oh no, it's a sad story. Actually, it's not a sad story.
This is fighting it. Yeah. Libraries are given money to buy books.
Yeah. Good. We've been covering this saga of book bans in this U.S. school library system for a while. There's a movement out there to get books that mention non-straight, non-cis people or relationships out of school libraries. There's also a push to get books with political messages out of school libraries. We've covered some of the books that have been banned, but we've also talked about how books genuinely just disappear when they get banned sometimes, and that's really sad. This article specifically is from Publishers Weekly in an initiative called We Need Diverse Books. They created a fund to help school libraries buy books and educate their communities. They say this is the next step in the fight against censorship.
I'm very heartened.
Yeah.
But also I'm still insanely upset about the ongoing politicization of our libraries.
That was kind of my thing. Like, I appreciate, I'm sure libraries appreciate funding, but I don't think funding was the problem. I think the problem was this weird, like, politicization of the library's inventory. I do appreciate that, like, part of this initiative was, you know, making content to educate the communities. I think that would be super helpful for them to say, hey, like, here's what's actually in this book and here's why I think it's important, that kind of thing. I think that will be super helpful, showing people what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do. I'm also, I can't remember, was it one of the articles in here or was it just something in my newsfeed? I was reviewing about like the overall state of like book banning in the country and like how to sidestep some of the actual like illegalities of just trying to ban books and like to cite laws that don't actually exist or that are flagrantly unconstitutional. Certain conservative members of certain communities are moving to pass very vague and non-specific like local legislation or statutes or policies that make it easier for them to then pull books off of shelves, and that there's a lot of community concern because of that.
Yeah.
I'll have to find that article because I don't from your look, I'm going to say it wasn't one of yours.
No, it wasn't one of mine.
So I was just browsing through based on as one of mine. I'll find it.
Okay.
And we can throw that blurb in as well.
Cool. Yes, please do. And we'll add links to these initiatives in the show notes if you want to give to the We Need Diverse Books Fund. Moving on to something slightly better. Social book clubs.
Yeah.
Still a thing.
Yeah.
I've never been a part of a book club. I don't know about you.
No, I am, Annie, like, you've given me a book. And I currently have it.
Yeah.
Right here.
That was like a
behind
year
me.
ago.
Currently.
That was one of our first episodes. I said, Kaylee, you need to read this book.
Well,
so
yeah, but you didn't give it to me until... So I'm... The thing is,
Kaylee says, well, technically.
Annie is not wrong in that I had access to the book at that time. I am just... Sometimes my little brain goblin is not going to let me read a specific thing, so... Yeah. Unfortunately. But that's my issue, is that I can't... Unless it's a homework, like I have a grade resting on, I've paid money for somebody to grade me on, I can't force myself to do it.
That's totally reasonable. I don't like being told what to read in general, so I've never been into a book club. I always thought it would be a cool idea, though, to have, like, book club, like, in quotes, where you just, like, show up and talk about your favorite book, and, we don't all have to read it together.
Like Books Anonymous?
Yeah!
Yeah, Readers Anonymous. Hi, my name is Annie.
I read this today. It was really great. Thank you, bye.
This was my favorite character. All right, peace.
Let me tell you about Paxonary.
Oh, God. Paxy's the best.
Paxy's the best. Anyway, so this article is from The Guardian. Virtual book clubs headed up by celebrities like Reese Witherspoon and Oprah are on the rise. I'm sorry, couldn't. I got all the way through Penguin Random House and Simon & Schuster, and I was so proud of myself.
That's just that your brain relaxed. Like,
yeah, that's right.
Stop dodging and bobbing and weaving.
More and more people are jumping into these social virtual book clubs to read the books and have discussions with fellow book readers. I thought this was interesting. Reading is actually, it's kind of a solitary activity, but a lot of people are very social, and this gives them, that through line. They talk about the books and connect socially. At the same time, the celebrity brands are pegging themselves to the books, which I think is pretty new. I actually don't remember that happening before. I know Oprah's had this book club for a long time, but I feel like this celebrity book club boom is new.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that it was a slow process. I think Oprah's was one of the most publicized, and I think we started seeing it. I vaguely recall it being a thing for the actress, what's her name? Well, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So there were one or two, throughout time, but, during COVID especially for these virtual book clubs, that was it. This was, a way for people to really connect.
These are, the hardcore book clubs, too. Everybody reads the same book for a month, and then they all get together and talk about it, what they liked, what they didn't like, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just fascinating. It was really nice. I thought this was really sweet. It was kind of charming, really heartening to see. There's a million perma crises in the world, but in the middle of all that, people are like, I want to read a book with Reese Witherspoon. It's kind of cute. I like that. And
it's the person who's here is it's not super high pressure or anything.
Yeah.
You could be part of the organization or whatever, and then...
This Guardian article was really sweet. The author was talking about her rush to finish the book, lest Reese be disappointed in her.
It was very cute.
It was.
And then, the 150, person discussion, which isn't unmanageable, honestly. They had the author, and they had... so I guess Reese wasn't as part of that particular...
Rude.
I know, it was very rude. I guess she has a life or whatever. It's fine.
Stupid.
But that's cool. It's an idea. The idea there for people that are interested is socialization is hard. If you've ever tried,
okay,
in case you're with me, I know you are. Annie, I know you get it.
Too.
If you've ever tried to make a phone call when you didn't have a script in front of you for work, that just trying to figure out what to talk about with other people, where it's awkward and it's concerning, because what if you expose something about yourself that they think is weird, and how do you respond to that? Yeah. This gives you a specific topic so people can get their daily dose or their weekly or monthly dose of contact in a safe and controlled fashion.
I love this.
It's perfect.
No, it's like a conspiracy of friendship.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, people want friendship, but they also don't want to Like, there's a lot of
Put
dangers in
themselves
the
out
world.
there,
Yeah,
make themselves
exactly.
vulnerable.
Yeah,
So
you have
just
to
talk about a book, an external thing of book.
Technically, you could say that I met 2 of my bridesmaids in a movie club.
That's true. Yeah.
So, like,
it works.
It does. It just, you find
you don't
a
even
topic.
need Reese Witherspoon to shame you
That's
for
true.
not finishing a book.
That's true. So, like, having a single topic and then growing from there is totally like a long-term respectable way to meet people and have that be like your main thing that you start with.
This story. We're going to post it in the show notes so you guys can see this adorable story of this person scrambling to finish her book.
She's like, no, I don't want anybody to be mad at me.
Moving on, if you are a big ebook reader, you have probably noticed a suspicious thing out in the world. Most ebooks are exactly the same price across all platforms.
But Annie, it's not fixed.
No matter what store you're looking at.
It's a mystery on how they get that way.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google, Apple Books, how does it happen? They're all $4.99 or $9.99.
Nobody knows.
What? It's a
somehow.
mystery. Why? What's happening? Well, we've talked about it before on the podcast.
Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain.
A lawsuit last year claimed that Amazon and the publishers were fixing these prices, but a judge shot that down because the judge said there's no proof.
There's no proof that it was done
a coincidence.
on purpose somehow.
Yeah. This one comes from Publishers Weekly. So this lawsuit is back. The judge dismissed it back in September, but now they are trying one more time. The lawyers are accusing Amazon and the big publishers in the U.S. of price fixing once more. And once more, Amazon and the publishers have said they are not price fixing.
They're just setting them at a certain amount.
Yeah, they're just setting the price. It's not price setting. It's just setting the price, Kaylee. Get it together. What am I doing with my life, Annie? So the last lawsuit, again, we said it was dismissed because there was no proof. I doubt they've suddenly come up with any proof since September, but who knows? It's not super likely that this is going to go through again. But if the lawyers win, we get cheaper ebooks. So
yeah,
go lawyers.
I mean, I would say if obviously conspiracy theory time. I'm curious if they're just trying to work out the defenses against their arguments while they're actively seeking the proof, because they can continue to bring
deposition.
This.
Sure, yeah.
They can continue to bring this lawsuit.
I learned the word deposition from watching that Pepsi Where's My Jet documentary.
No.
Have you heard about this?
No.
Okay. Well, we might cut this out, but
we have Be Real for a reason.
We do. There's a documentary on Netflix back in I guess it was the 80s or the 90s. Pepsi, as a joke, they said, put out an ad that said, if you get enough Pepsi points, you get a jet. 7 million points or something. And they're like, no one could possibly get 7 million points. And then this kid got 7 million points and he's like, where's my jet? And Pepsi took him to court being like, we're not going to give you a jet. And he countersued. He's like, give me my jet. And so the documentary is called Pepsi Where's My Jet? And they found the kid again. And all of his, he had a business partner who was just his mentor, who just happened to have a lot of money laying around to help him get all the points. And then his friend's family lawyer. And then this one random media lawyer that they found who was able to get them on TV. And they grabbed everybody back together and they're like, oh yeah, that was really fun. Do you guys remember that one time we sued Pepsi?
I love it. That's fantastic. I gotta look that up.
You should. But they went through basically how, if it had been a perfect case, how they would have had to go about doing it to actually get Pepsi to give this kid a jet. So deposition, they would have had to depose the people who made the ad, who would have said, yes, it was supposed to be a joke, but we made it less of a joke so that it wasn't funny. So I think it was a real offer. Everybody was like, I think it was a real offer. Pepsi should have given that kid his jet. Even now, 20 years later.
That kid
deserved his jet. He did his best. Anyway, so I learned the word deposition from the Netflix documentary. Go ahead.
No, I don't remember what we were talking about. It's fun.
Yeah, so you're right. Yeah, they can keep asking for more information to try and find the proof that they need that there is price fixing going on. We said, I don't remember, we've used it's these guys meeting in a shady parking garage in their trench coats, and we think, we just don't have the proof
deep throat. Yeah,
we just don't have the proof yet.
100%. The smoking man in the background.
Yeah. Obviously biased. If ebooks prices were lower, I would not be mad, but I will always take an opportunity to remind everyone, your library has ebooks. Even my grandmother's local library in the boonies in Missouri has an app so yours probably does too. You can get free ebooks from your library.
And also, the more you use them, the more your tax dollars are seen going to fucking buying the same book every single time. And maybe we can fix that problem too.
The library will get more books. Yes. So the argument, obviously from the publishers and Amazon, is that they never talked to each other. They just based the prices on market forces. So capitalists on this other side are saying, the system is working as intended. But there is a problem, I will say, kind of on the horizon, as if Amazon keeps consolidating power in ebooks, we may see price increases across the board, which is really the concerning future there. That I think is what these lawyers are kind of arguing is what we don't want. So they're going to keep trying to find.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think they're going to keep bringing the argument while they seek out the proof, just to, one, keep it in the public eye, but two, also, hopefully they're going to try to get more information or trip these people up. Or again, so as they approach it from different angles, see how the publishers are responding.
Yeah.
And then they know how to build their counter arguments later.
Right.
When they actually go forward.
Yeah.
So, Godspeed. You're doing the Lord's work. Good for you.
In the meantime,
do it.
Use your local library.
And in the meantime, always go to the library because it's wonderful.
Moving on. Speaking of libraries, pirate libraries. If you've sailed the seven seas.
Speaking of the cohort.
Yeah, right, exactly. If you've ever tried to pirate an ebook, which is not something that we recommend, but we acknowledge that it happens, you might have heard of a service called Z Library. It is a free database of ebooks. Had you heard of this?
No.
Okay, well, the FBI shut it down, so it's fine. Mm-hmm. The London Review of Books took the opportunity with this story to do a deep dive on shadow libraries, like Z Library, and they actually had some surprising findings. I was really interested in the stats that they were able to dig up. Some of the books and documents in the databases available on Z Library were not available literally anywhere else, in print or online. And shutting down sites like this, it turns out, does not significantly increase legit library or authorized database use. They pointed out that shutting down these libraries may actually exacerbate inequality. Separately, and this article is from Vulture, some people on TikTok, there's a rumor saying that it was the romance novel fans of the cohort, Colleen Hoover, who led the FBI to the databases. They were accusing people of pirating the most recent book, which we talked about had the biggest pre-release sales in history. And they're like, oh, but there's pirating. And it's I think it might not be pirating if you had the biggest 1 million copies sold.
I mean, technically, yes, but also, are you being injured right now?
Yeah,
no, but you're definitely
you're
punching down.
You're fine. Yeah.
You're punching down now. But setting all of that to the side.
Yeah, right, exactly.
They could absolutely what a surprise that this is going to impact people that can't access these things elsewhere. You could absolutely look at.
Seems like our theme today.
Music and visual media content. If you make something easily accessible via other channels, legal channels, will go to those channels.
Right.
It takes work to find these less reputable means to find this content, and also make sure that it is because Z Library, these anywhere pirate hubs,
right?
They're not really super curated. Mm-hmm. So not only do you have to find a legit source in this ocean of websites, you also have to make sure that the actual content that you're trying to download is genuine and not a fucking virus. Mm-hmm. It takes time and you're not sure about it. And if you don't have the tools available to you, you don't do it.
Yeah.
Or you take time to learn, and it's just effort and stuff that you're putting in. So if you can go somewhere more legitimately and do it very easily and just give them a reasonable amount of money, or borrow it for a period of time, you're going to do that. Generally, the public will do that. That has been proven with streaming across the board. When it is easy to access legally, people access it legally. When it's not available, consistently, that's when people turn and actually do all of the work that I just described to pirate something. Mm-hmm. If you can't find it elsewhere, or if it's just impossible for you to get to it.
Yeah.
That's when people, as a mass effort, will go through and pirate something.
Yeah.
It's not fucking rocket science fam. Like, it's not that difficult. Like, what a mystery that this didn't impact sales.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. That was kind of the main point of the story. I was paying attention also to the stats that were kind of backing up the LBR's jump into it. I thought it was really interesting. I mean, obviously, like, you know, shutting down things like this, it's not going to automatically make the world a worse place or anything like that. But policies like this do seem to contribute to unequal access to information. It seems like, again, like that's our theme for the day. We didn't even notice. If you don't have the money to buy a document or find it another way, if it's even findable, it's also, you know, obviously, you know, shutting down one of these, they're going to crop back up. These databases have not been, you know, eradicated totally. There's probably going to be a couple more that pop back up again. These libraries are obviously violating the law, but given some of the research, should that law be adjusted is what the LBR was asking. And I think that's worth considering. I mean, it backed up the argument with a lot of these stats. Like you're saying that, you know, a lot of people do want to do legit things.
You can genuinely find those statistics and that proof in the last 30 years of the rise of digital technology, the rise of piracy. Like, when is it actually impacting people, and when does it get cut back? Right. And you can. There are very clear lines that can be drawn. I could go find the studies again because I looked this up previously.
Yeah, well, a lot of them are featured in this article, and they're talking about how, like, a lot of the stuff is just not available anywhere else. You can't get it legally.
You can't pay for it. There's no one to give their money to. Like, you could reach out to the author, but they could be sued if they give it to you.
Right, exactly. So, you know, it's one of those things that the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which is what a lot of these copyright laws are under, there have been calls for that to be kind of revised coming into, you know, the 2020s as we evolve our understanding of ownership and content these days.
Speaking of AI.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to get there in a minute.
Swing into that one.
But hopefully that's something that they can consider. But, you know, again, obviously, because they are violating this copyright law, they are going to be taken down. And there's no way to get around that one.
Hey, cohort, don't lead them to the next science database. Come on, guys.
Like,
Kathleen is going to be fine.
Colleen,
I'm the worst. Definitely cut that out. They're gonna come for me on your Facebook also.
On my TikTok account. You needy.
You just cut all that out.
We're gonna run now. Run to the next story. Moving on. If you've been online in the past few months, you've probably seen a lot of the buzz about the AI advances that we've seen. If you haven't, an AI writing bot debuted called ChatGPT. Some early samples of its writing. They weren't terrible.
Elon Musk is not trolling your fan fiction. I just want to put this out there. Like, that was a thing that was going around. He is not personally involved. He was briefly involved with a company that I think wrote one of the softwares for a writing AI bot, but
this is a different one.
He was like years ago stepped away. So I just want to put that out there. Yeah. Like, if you are generally tangentially aware of this as a topic, that's probably why he doesn't give a shit about your fanfic. Continue.
Elon Musk cares about my fanfic.
Well, of course he does, Annie. He likes that Gideon the Ninth.
That's right, my Gideon the Ninth fanfic. Mm-hmm. It's spooked a lot of people for a lot of various reasons, and then there's been, you know, kind of some discourse of, like you're saying, about how it's stealing from other people's work, but also there's the discourse about how this might, you know, replace writers too. So is AI, you know, coming for their jobs? Probably not yet. We actually have a couple sources on this one. One is a really good breakdown of how professional writers might be affected from Countercraft, which is a fantastic newsletter. Highly recommend you guys subscribe to that Substack. We'll have all these links in the show notes. Another one from Forbes talking about, go back to copyright, who owns the content when you've created it using a chat bot, and this other one from MIT talking about the quality of the writing from an aesthetic perspective. And basically, the consensus really is that it's going to affect the freelance writers and academics probably more than anyone else. A lot of spammy articles you've probably seen, they're already AI generated. You can kind of tell when you get one of those across your dash. It's likely that more advancement like this is just going to mean more of those articles out in the world. And it's
a lot of the clickbait. So guys, just in general, I don't think we've revisited this topic in a while. So just going to put this out there. You don't have to click the articles. Like, if something comes to you and you're like, that's wrong and that's outrageous, you can go to Google and search those terms separately and see if anyone else, a legitimate source, is talking about it in a less divisive fashion, because it's almost certainly, one, generated specifically to outrage you that has no content, or it links you to another one of their own articles that has the embedded media or whatever, or two, it was generated by an AI. Like, it's generally just a content like creation machine so that they can get more clicks and traffic for their advertising revenue. Like, you don't have to feed that beast.
You don't have to click the clickbait.
You can control yourself. It is baiting you, but you are smarter than a bear going under the box.
Are you smarter than a bear going into a trap?
I believe in you.
Hopefully. We'll see.
So that's a weird metaphor, but you don't, that is our industry right now, and it is a problem. The only way we're going to solve that problem is if we step back and stop letting it work. Yeah.
So those obviously are like the biggest probably way that AI articles are generated right now. The concern, and this came from the Countercraft article, is that the more reputable articles, like when a new Marvel superhero gets cast, and like every site has to have like an article about that just to put the news out there. There are just like every single site is grabbing just a random freelancer and being like, can you write about this? Doesn't have to be long, kind of a low effort article, just to make sure that we have that notification on our site. And basically that job might go away for a freelancer, and the editor will just turn to an AI bot and say, write this, and then edit it and then throw it up there, which is a lot less effort for them and a lot cheaper, because it would be more or less the same content, because everybody's basically reporting the same content. So that's one of those things where it is genuinely going to be changing the shape of freelancer work in the future, which we kind of talked about a little bit, how like a lot of our professional writers get their start doing those like kind of low effort spammy articles, making those relationships with those editors and those websites to then hopefully write bigger and better articles in the future. So some opportunities will be definitely changing with the industry will definitely be changing a little bit with this. And then another big question, we talked about copyright. Yeah, ownership. Like, who owns these articles? Who owns the databases that are feeding these articles? Who owns any of it? Right now, in the US, AI cannot own copyrights on anything. So the copyrights are owned by either the editor who edits it or the publisher who publishes it.
I think that we're going to see legislation on this topic start springing up more on from the art avenue, from the art AI bots that are coming out and they're consuming and generating. I think that we're going to start seeing the legislation that will apply to the writing bots. I think it's going to be cross-compatible, or at least we're going to start leveraging that, because it's coming now, where we've got people using AI bots to generate content, but all the art that these bots are consuming, there's no way to confirm that it's been fully ethically sourced. Like, have you reached out to the people and gotten their permission
to put it into this database that you're using to teach the bot?
Yeah, exactly. Like, so that all has to be considered. Right. As a general rule, like for the writing bot, as part of the article that we're discussing, I thought the most interesting piece, and probably assuming that we can confirm again that the content that is being consumed to start generating the style for that bot has been ethically sourced, is open source. Like, at that point, there's no owner. Like, it is an open source piece, which means that you shouldn't be able to enter it into contests and win prize money. Right. Unless, there's it's going for your AI bot, I don't know, fund or whatever. I guess. I don't know. Like, I'd be interested to see that. But like that was like the most moving argument as far as it goes. But again, you still have to source your content. Like, I don't necessarily want to say that there's anything wrong with AI produced art. Like, you shouldn't say art is anything in particular, writing or visual content media wise. Like, trying to limit what is art and how it is defined that's a slippery slope.
Yeah, and it always kind of smacks of elitism to me. Anytime someone says, "Oh, that's not really art," like, I automatically am like,
However, ethically finding the content, that is an absolute hard line. Like, you definitely don't get to steal somebody's stuff. Like, you can't even just walk up and reproduce like somebody's shit. You can't do that physically. Why would you be able to do that digitally?
You can, but you're in violation of copyright.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's something to consider. But like, setting that aside, I think that's the biggest argument that we have with AI today, and that's what's going to have to be legislated carefully.
Yeah. I'm kind of just glossing over the philosophical question of...
I don't think there is a philosophical question.
of what is art.
Yeah, like there's no... That's the same question we've been asking for the last 3,000 years.
Yep, it's true. How old are the cave paintings? I think they're older than 3,000
They're older
years.
than 20,000.
Kaylee, be more specific when you're
5,000, because God and the dinosaurs existed on Earth at the same time, and he punched a T-Rex.
Punched a T-Rex.
I saw an article that was like, this is the most interesting science test I've ever seen. And it was like,
could God punch a T-Rex?
Did Jesus and the dinosaurs exist at the same time? Yes. And that was like, it was so stupid.
And it was just ripped.
They were like, it was like the creationism, like God created dinosaurs and everything's within the last 5,000 years. I don't know.
Right.
It was very silly.
Yeah. Moses was like, he rode on the back of a mastodon or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
Megalodon.
The Megalodon.
Megalodon, that's it.
They ate sharks and were 10 feet long.
We were in the car listening to the most recent episode.
Okay, go ahead.
And there's a part where I'm trying to remember the word Escher painting, and I'm just like, what is that thing with the stairs and it's going down forever? And I was like, I turned to Huey, I was like, why did I leave that in? It's just me being like, what is a spiral? And you being like, a spiral? I'm like, no. Well, it's a drawing. I just put that out into the world. Like, why did I do that?
It lets people know that we're real people.
Leave this one in, yeah.
Lets people know that we're real.
Leave it in.
We're not AI bots.
What is art? What is art, Kaylee? Let's think about it.
Let's just have a moment of silence while we consider.
Let's all take a moment and think about art.
I mean, some of the most moving poetry that I've told you about, because you don't like poetry, but I've presented a few very good poems to you, and they're not only are they community sourced and built up on different pieces, but they're generally like brought together by different methods and formats. Like it's basically the same idea as this AI bot, like for generating art, but again, community sourced, and it's physically brought together.
And openly community sourced.
Exactly. And again, it's open source in that nobody's making money off of it.
Right. And no one can own it.
And no one can own it.
Yeah.
So I think that like the what is art is the ongoing question, and this doesn't the existence of AI
question,
exactly doesn't change that question.
Yeah.
And in fact it shouldn't. And anybody who tries to define it in an exclusionary fashion is a piece of shit.
Instead of a celebrations and what we're reading section this time, I wanted to remind everyone that we offer free advertising for any marginalized groups in publishing. If you have a work coming out, or if you would like to plug your journal or your book or your article, we would be happy to advertise that for you. You can email us at inksyncpodcast@gmail.com with links to your work. And we also want to know what you are reading. We haven't gotten any messages in our inbox in a while, and we miss you all. You can email us also at inksyncpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you're reading. Let us know what we should be reading. If there are books that are just going under our radar, let us know. We are super interested. We really appreciate everybody listening, and you can follow us on all of our social media and listen to the podcast on any podcatcher, including YouTube, and see the text version of the podcast on Substack. And you can get all of those links at our Linktree, and we hope to see you all next time. Also, thanks, Abby.